My name is Don McKay, born in Baltimore, so West Baltimore to be exact. I have three sisters, mother and father, obviously. And music was something that I got into really early.
Face down, you know what's up. Don't fart, give it up. Face down, you know what's up. Don't fart, give it up. Face down, you know what's up. Don't fart, give it up. Face down, you know what's up. Don't fart, give it up. Face down, you know what's up. Don't fart, give it up.
Around the house, my sisters and I used to, and I think a lot of people did this. We used to do like we used to do songs, singing and dancing. Like we had a couple of records that we just always would sing to. Like we had the soundtrack to The Wiz, and we would listen to that. We would sing the songs, and we would try to make up performances for the songs. And we had Michael Jackson Thriller, and we would sing the songs and try to imitate the music videos and stuff like that and perform for our parents. And so we used to do that. And we had this like a component set. So you had like the tape recorder, and it had the radio and the record player on top. It had this like funny arm that would come over, and you could put a bunch of records on, and when one record went off, the next one would drop down. And we didn't have a lot of records that we liked, because the other songs were songs like Motown, maybe, and OJ's, The Whisper, stuff like that. And those weren't fun to perform, but the Michael Jackson songs were fun to perform, and so we would do that. And so that's like really my first music memories of the songs that I liked. Like I said, my parents had they had their vibe. My mother was like real big into Peabo Bryson and like some other kind of stuff, but that was like too old for us. So that was like the first stuff. And then as breakdancing and stuff like that came like on the scene, I was seeking out those kind of songs. But you gotta understand, it wasn't like it is now. You didn't have access. There was no internet. And songs came on the radio, but there wasn't really like defined genres like hip hop. Hip hop was just like a couple records. That was it. And so there wasn't like constant rap music on. So we used to seek out music, trade tapes with people. You would record stuff off the radio and things like that, which I did all of that stuff. And so I had this group of guys around my neighborhood. We would trade music back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And I would just listen. Surprisingly, I was punished a lot, and a lot of my friends from the neighborhood would laugh and joke about that. So I didn't get in like a lot of trouble. It was just like silly stuff, mischievous stuff, and I would be punished in the house. Now, looking back, probably a big part of it was to protect me from being outside. We didn't live in the best neighborhood coming up, but it was just like, I'm in the house. What do we do? Like, there's no computer. There was no iPhone. There was no iPad. There was none of that stuff. So it's just like your mind. You got a lot of pen and paper. The stuff is on TV, but it's not always going to be stuff you want to see. So you really just have your toys, your mind, your siblings and stuff. And I'm listening to the music, and I'm learning the words to people's songs, and I just started to recite other songs. And there were other rappers. These are early rappers. So we're talking about LL Cool J, talking about the Fat Boys, people like that. And so I'm just listening to their songs. I'm performing their songs in my bedroom. And as I got to high school, it opened up there was a big opportunity to perform, because there was a stage in school and all this kind of stuff. And so other guys around the neighborhood rapped, and they were more like on some hardcore type battling. Same way with the breakdancing, which I like to watch, but I didn't participate in it. I didn't breakdance. I wasn't doing the battle rapping. I wasn't DJing. I was just literally a fan of music, and that's really where my journey begins. Once I got to high school, I went to a school in Baltimore, obviously called Edmondson High School. And so this school, it's funny because most of the people in the city, at least at the time, looked at Edmondson as like a fashion show school. Like people big on what you're wearing, and it wasn't really a lot of music. It wasn't like School of the Arts or somewhere like that. I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that I had enough skill to get into the School of the Arts. So I was completely intimidated by that. Because let's keep in mind, I'm just a fan of music. While I think that I have theatrical ability, I didn't look at myself as an actor. I thought that like there were people that was really into that, and I wasn't good enough to try that. I didn't think I drew pictures well enough. Like I didn't think that I had any of those skills. Completely intimidated by that. So I went to Edmondson, not knowing what I wanted to do. I thought that I wanted to be a chef. And this is funny, I'm even saying this. I thought that I wanted to be a chef because I said, what's something that I can do that I'll always have a job, and I said people are always going to want to eat. So I can go, I can be a chef, I'll always be able to have a job, and that's what I wanted to go there to do. Anybody knows me, okay, so I can cook. I don't like to cook, which is kind of funny. I don't really have time. And cooking class was a disaster for me. It did not work out well. I ended up getting kicked out of cooking class. How do you get kicked out of, like, I got kicked out of the whole trade, like not in the trade anymore. So it was just, like I said, just my mischievous behavior. But in the 9th grade, I got my first taste of being on stage and actually saying a rap. Now, it wasn't the first time I'd been on stage before. I went on stage in the 3rd grade. I went out for this, and I was talking about this the other day. I went out for a play called Tom Sawyer. And a lot of people, not going to say everybody, but a lot of people know the Tom Sawyer story, right? I wanted to be Huckleberry Finn. I thought he was cool. This is in a different neighborhood too. So let me say this is before we came to the hood, right? And so I wanted to audition for the part of Huckleberry Finn. The teacher said, no, you can't audition for that. They're looking for a different person for that role. And so I was like, why? I learn the lines, like all this kind of stuff. And so there was probably 3 other black kids in the school, not my class, like the school. So that was, like I said, before we moved to the hood. And so she was trying to politely tell me, you're black, this character has to be white. I didn't get it. I was completely receptive to it. Eventually, I accepted the fact that they weren't going to. They didn't even let me audition for the part. They didn't even humor me. I explained it to my father when I got home, and he's one of the type of people that just drops shit on you. Like, look, this is what it is. You know what I mean? I couldn't. It just didn't make sense to me. So I didn't understand it. It didn't work out the way I wanted to work out. They did let me be in the play, but I just was like a singer, like a rock or something, and just all the black kids, which it just didn't even make sense to me at the time, but all the black kids, we were part of the singing ensemble of this Tom Sawyer musical. So it just didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. So I guess I was kind of disappointed. And so the next opportunity I had to get on stage was in the 9th grade at the talent show. And so I was one of the hosts of this talent show, which I don't even understand how I even fell into this gig, because I'd never hosted anything before, but there was an opportunity to be on stage. I took advantage of the opportunity, make the most of the opportunity. That's something that I always, when I talk to people, taking advantage of and making the most of an opportunity is super important. So I've always tried to do that. And when this opportunity presented itself, they were looking for hosts for the talent show. They were looking for participants in the talent show, and like people part of the stage crew. So I said, maybe I should try out for the host, right? I don't even know why. But they picked me, and it was me and 2 other people, and I got the opportunity to kick off the show with a rap. Okay, I'd never rapped on stage before. Matter of fact, I had never rapped other than popular songs that I heard on the radio. But I wasn't nervous. They made us wear suits, so I got a tuxedo, and we did this performance. And so the other host rapped with me. So I did the rap that was written, did my parts, and it went over really good. That's how we kicked off the show. And the feeling that I got rapping on the stage, it was intoxicating. I did that, and I wanted more and more and more. And so I ended up starting a rap group. But before we get to that, I was like a solo rapper. So the next year, I wanted to be in the talent show, because who wants to be the host when you can be in the show? It was backwards, right? But I auditioned for the show to be a participant in the show, and I thought that I did a good song. I'd practiced the song for nearly a year, because from the moment that I was part of the hosting, I wanted to be in the show, because I saw the way that the performers were received, and I said, I want to do that, because my rap was just less than a minute, and these performers were able to be up there for almost 5 minutes, and I wanted to do that. And so I didn't want to just announce, coming to the stage, this one, that one. I wanted to be this one or that one. This is a year after I had hosted the show at first. We did not make it. So let me say this. The song was good. But, I mean, maybe the stage presence could have been a little bit better. It was a lot of like arm folding type of posing. Probably could have been better. But we did not make the show. This was the first time I realized, in at least, maybe not the first time, second time I realized, first time being when I was a third grader, but I really saw firsthand the politics factor, because the other acts that they allowed, it's not that they were better than what I did, it was about the politics of it, because they had all of these seniors pick the people who were going to be in the show, and they picked all seniors to be the performers as well. And I was not a senior, so that was just it. It didn't matter what I did at that point. So that was kind of deflating as well. So I vowed the next year I was going to come back and do something. But I realized I learned something every time. So I learned that I needed to have a better stage show, so it was undeniable. That's what I decided to do. So the following year, I decided to put together a group. We were going to have dancers and have a better stage show.
Wow, this is crazy. When I was in middle school, going towards high school, that first transition, I used to date this girl. I ain't gonna go into no names, years, but during that time frame. But I used to date this girl and stuff, and it was going into high school. It was about to get into new things and see different things, and we was young, who wanted to be tied down at the time. So I was breaking up with this girl. She ain't take it the best way, a little upset and stuff. But when we young, you wasn't really worried about it too much. Then high school started, got into the new year and stuff, and a lot of the history that a lot of people don't know about me and Diamond is, before we got into music or even radio or media, use the second from the right. We actually were musicians. I'm not ashamed to say that. We was musicians. We played instruments and stuff, and I was coming from middle school, and I was a part of the brass department, and my big thing was getting into this music. Not music like hip hop or anything like that, but getting into music, just playing music, because I really had a love for the music, and finding a good school or good band teacher at the time. And we met Mr. Brown, and Mr. Brown was like one of the best teachers and stuff. He really took that time, and he understood students and stuff, and he gave you an opportunity to be you. And we meshed. He made me first trombone, which was a proud moment back then. And Diamond was in the band too. Diamond was a first trumpet. He was in the brass department. And the thing is, this is where you get crazy at. The girl I used to date, she made her change, and she wanted to make me a little jealous and date somebody. So she started dating Diamond. I didn't know Diamond, so she started
Georgia 141
flaunting him
south.
around,
To
and
the
you know,
left,
he
your right
walking
is to
through the
take
lunch
525
line and
east
the
exit.
hallway and stuff. And I'm like, oh, who this new guy that she's dating and stuff. But we haven't really crossed paths yet, you know, at the bank, because school was just starting up. But she was flaunting him around. But we had no ill will, you know, it was no beef or anything like that. I just didn't know who the guy was, and to be honest with you, I had broke up with her, so I wasn't really like in my feelings.
1,000 feet, merge onto
You know, it was just like, who was this new person she dating? So when we got into band, the year started,
merge onto
and I met Diamond and stuff like that,
from the right lane to take exit.
and you know, we got to talking about the music and, you know, what instrument you play and, you know, whatever, and what they was interested in. And, you know, Diamond, during this time frame, I was getting into rap. You know, we was all trying to find a way to express ourselves.
We auditioned, we made it, we performed in front of the school. They had like a show during the school time, during the school day, and pretty much everybody in the school attended. So the auditorium held 1,500 people, 1,200, something like that, and it was completely full. And then we did a show at night, during the nighttime. It was open to the public, same thing, boom. And I was really all the way in at that point.
We was trying to find a way to express ourselves. So not only I was playing with the music, you know, we was on trying to put songs together, had a little group, danced and stuff, you know, just, you know, having a good time. And Diamond at the time frame was getting into music as well. So we had that conversation, like, oh man, you like this, you like that. So we like some of the same groups and some of the same music and everything. And, you know, we was like, hey man, we should put a group together. And, you know, of course, she was pissed at that, you know, she was pissed. And, you know, and from that time frame, we had a group MSP, and then we changed it, and then CIA was born. Man, CIA was born.
And that led to making records and performing talent shows, all that kind of stuff. So it was just, that's really what kept me off of, you know, out of the streets and out in street activity, because it was all in my neighborhood. My friends, the guys I went to elementary school with, or middle school, were out there doing that, and I was focused on music. So it was like I would be like in a neighborhood out, and it's kind of like, yo, don't be out here today, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and you know, you need to stay focused on the music and do that. And it was like that. So times were different, but it was a good time, and it was just very motivating for me. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to always be on the stage. I wanted to make records. I wanted to make music. There were a couple guys in the neighborhood that really were instrumental in helping me. One person that really sticks in mind is a person I really think who really taught me how to produce. He had a studio in his basement. He went to elementary school with me, and middle school and high school. His name was Arthur, and I don't even understand how he had all this stuff. But he had equipment, he had turntables, he had a drum machine, he had microphones, and a lot of records. And so I used to practice at his house. I also practiced at my man Greg's house. But nobody wanted it as much as me. So I had to have multiple people whose houses I could go over. And sometimes maybe they you know, I mean, we're living with our parents, so it's not like you can just bang music all day and night. So I would split my time. I'd go to this one's house, go to this one's house, go to this one's house, try not to get in trouble in my own house. But at Arthur's house, I was really able to kick back and really learn how to try to make music. And that's where I started. And so I, you know, if he was around, he would be here with me as part of this journey. Unfortunately, he committed suicide when he was 19, and so that was very difficult. It was very, very difficult, because it's like picture like Salt and Pepper. or Run DMC or Jodeci, and just one of the important members is gone. You know what I mean? It's like that would just have changed the whole, the whole makeup of the whole thing. And that's what I felt that him committing suicide did. It was very hard. It was very hard. So, I still pushed forward, and I used that as a, you cannot stop because, he's gone. What did you do all this for? So I pushed on. And it was funny because I would always meet people that could help me on the journey. Somebody with studio equipment, with connection, something. And like I said, you got to make the most of the opportunity. And that's what I would do. I met different people. I met my man Rob, who he didn't have the same quality of equipment that Arthur had, but he had good equipment. And at his house, in his grandmother's, in his room at his grandmother's house, in an apartment, we created a demo tape that really changed everything for me.